It's my second night of being really figuring out the camera. I finally plugged in, the power source, power to me, power to the people, so that, the DJI can function as the webcam. What a blessing, technology. Um, Blessing that is the curse. Uh, Today has been a magical Monday. It's definitely bleeding, pun intended. I love puns. I'm so good at puns. Bleeding into Tuesday. I am bleeding into Tuesday. So um this evening after our spooky ride, we love to go on bike rides in Halloween, and it'll be forever one of my favorite cherished core memories of parenthood. Actually, one of the ways I knew I was ready to, or whether ready is a relative term, but that I desired parenthood was that I truly felt this divine magical nudge watching kids trick or treat and um knowing that I no longer desired to like be the trick or treater, but I was so stoked to be the parent, and that was just like a knowing that I had one Halloween when we were married, and that I was so excited and looking forward to that. And so, what a blessing that we have that. And I love, love, love all the holidays with our Keiki, but something I love is that we hop on our e-bikes. We have lights all over them. JD blasts on his speaker. Um, Ghostbusters and somebody's watching you and Halloween tunes, and they just ooh and ah, and we go around the neighborhoods looking for Halloween blow-ups, which the blow-up game is strong. Can we be honest? And just different places that are decorated. My bike, the back tire needed some had a leak, and the valve had an issue. So anyway, we took it into this amazing bike shop in Kihei. I rode it in earlier, and JD and Camden and Cruise and Core followed me. So um, tonight it was a drive. But we did the drive and we came home, and I was finishing up some schooling. We had a flexible schedule today, which more power to us for us schooling. And a very unfamiliar and yet distant past familiar sensation. And I realized I started my period, menstruation, my cycle. It's literally been 2 years because I'm 15, a little bit more than 15 months postpartum, about 15 and a half months postpartum. Not quite, but around more than 15 months postpartum. And then that combined with my high pregnancy season, it's been over 2 years since I've had my period. I haven't missed it. But I just thought, wow, also I get to have my period. I'm grateful for it. It means my body and hormonal harmony is settling into a rhythm. And for that, I'm so grateful. I'm going to speak to this another, telling of my story, but because I was diagnosed with osteoporosis, due to some tumors and complications, um, about 6 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, uh, estrogen and the hormonal fluctuation for me is really key and beautiful and valuable for my bone health. And I choose to live into nourishing foods and do a lot of weight-based exercises. And my new goal weight is to be strong AF. And I feel a stronger version of myself than ever. And so I get to have that information about my bones, and I'm grateful for that. And with that knowledge, instead of feeling weak, I feel strong. And so my initial thought was, wow, like I literally was digging around in my bathroom drawers for tampons because don't have them. It's been 2 years. I think I had one lone one in there. Um, and she wasn't really for the flow. So anyway, tomorrow we'll be going to the grocery store and back to the but what a blessing that I get to shop for that, and what a blessing that my body, beautiful body, continues to show up for me, and has housed, grown, nurtured, and nourished 3 pregnancies, 3 postpartum journeys. I'm continuing on my breastfeeding journey that I've been on um, off and on over the past 8 years, and more consecutively for the past 5 years. And yes, I'm fascinated by the body, by the hormonal symphony that's going on inside of me, and by the way that my body shows and knows that, yes, it can continue to sustain and nourish through breastfeeding medicine, and it also can show up for me. And it is prepared and ready to welcome new life, which is what, essentially our cycles are, right? Is that in a female's reproductive life cycle, we have the laying down of the uterine lining, the uterus where, we can house life. And throughout the month, that lining is there and it builds. And then, and of course, there's hormonal cascade of estrogen and progesterone and other ones as well, luteinizing hormone and FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. And then whether implantation occurs or not, by your ovulate, you ovulate midway through your cycle. And then if there is implantation in your uterus through fertilization of your egg, then you don't have your period. You don't shed that lining because your body knows that you are nourishing and nurturing life and you are pregnant, you're high. If, and more often, right, for women, if you do not have implantation during that month, or fertilization of an egg, what was not successful or just didn't happen for whatever reason, then you shed your uterine lining in the form of your period and your menstrual blood and your cycle, and then the cycle begins anew. And what a beautiful cleansing experience as a woman that we get to embrace. And I feel like our society still has a ways to go. Reading back through the Bible, I think it was blood is considered unclean, and I'm sure women were considered unclean, and still in some cultures, like during this time of the month. I actually remember being on a surf trip in the Mentawai when Camden was like one, maybe two. I actually thought I was pregnant. I was excited secretly about it. It was like super early because I was late on my period. So I hadn't brought like a lot of feminine hygiene products, and we were in Padang, which is we were gonna travel out to like the more remote part of Mentawais. Beautiful country, beautiful people, beautiful culture. And it was just humbling to see, and maybe it was a communication barrier, but it was really challenging for me to find female hygiene products in any grocery stores in that area, probably for just different ways that they handle their menstrual cycles. And that was just really eye-opening for me. And here in Hawaii, like, and then especially Maui, I've met many women who actually our arborist that came over one time, he was just saying how his lady, his girlfriend, they like use the moon juice, referring to the period for like nurturing fertilization of their plants. And just thinking about just all the different ways that we tend to think of it as an inconvenience sometimes in our society, and it's really like a sign of our vitality, of our health, of our well-being, of our chosenness as a female, of our birthright and passage. And I often refer to it, I am in the sleep medicine course that I'm building. We have periods of diapers and periods when we're not in diapers as women, right? Like we start off our life in diapers as newborns and infants and toddlers, and then we have a period not in diapers, and then we come into our period of fertility where we are in female hygiene products of various kinds, and then we come through that, and that might be percolated depending on if you choose or are able to have children. Then you will have brief respite periods where you do not have your cycle due to pregnancy and postpartum. And women resume their periods in a fascinating way postpartum. Some are a few months postpartum. For me, I'm 15 months. And then, then perimenopausally, it gets more sparse. And then menopausally, you stop having your period. So you're kind of out of the diapers again. And then perhaps in later age, you might be depensing again. And full disclaimer, I used Depends postpartum. I found them to be very helpful. It was interesting to me to kind of marinate on 15 today because I was not eager to get my period when I was an adolescent, and I was super, super athletic and on the thinner side, which again, thin girls, this is another topic for another day, and I'd love to continue to pick the brains of my endocrinologist colleagues and the genius zones and the minds on this. But and so all this to say, thin adolescents can start their periods at any age, and we are seeing a general trend in our society and perhaps around the world of girls, females beginning their menstrual cycles at earlier ages. I was 15 and I was grateful for that. I remember it. It was Christmas Day. Here comes the red. And I think I cried because I was kind of bummed about it, but also it was obviously I was 15 and it was a very good time to start. And I was just one of those girls like growing up where I just never knew when my period was coming. It was like here, there, everywhere. And I just remember, more often than not, there's frequent accidents and just learning to deal with it. And the process of learning for me, the eagerness to learn how to use a tampon was strong because growing up in Florida, there was always a lot of pool parties. And I remember in particular being invited to Wet and Wild which is a water park. Wanted to learn how to use a tampon. And full disclaimer, my first time learning, uh, I wasn't like shown, and I tried to like insert the entire tampon, including the cardboard applicator, and obviously like it was painful and uncomfortable and scratchy. And I remember trying to walk with it in and like telling my mom, and then finally figuring that out. Um, and also just playing soccer and being in competitive soccer, the wings and just like having the pad was felt really bulky and undesirable. So we've come a long way since then with all these like I have not tried like the menstrual cup, but there's tons of cool products out there. Um, and then I also had a fear, as I'm sure most girls too, of like the toxic shock syndrome, the TSFs. That's the warning that comes on like tampons and not leaving them in too long. And I have definitely been, because I have heavy flows and have had heavy flows through my life, like utilized two tampons at once before. And one time I remember when I was dating JD, I like became concerned and anxious that I couldn't find one. So I remember going to the ER and literally, being in the stirrups and getting an examination to determine if I had like a lost tampon. Because, and disclaimer, I didn't, it was fine. But like, what a complex, and you got to find the humor in it. Um, and yeah, so today here I am at 15 months postpartum. I believe I was around 15 months postpartum with Cruz when I resumed my cycle. And with Camden, I think it might have been a little bit earlier, but 15 months was significant because it was around the time I found out that I had to stop breastfeeding her due to the parathyroid adenomas and tumors that I had in the calcium flux that was going to happen in my body. And I remember grieving that. And here I am 15 months postpartum with cord, and lo and behold, like wasn't expecting it, but it's here. And life is so cyclical, and it's just so fascinating that our bodies follow this, and how, like, how they say, like, women that spend a lot of time together start to kind of harmonize and synchronize on their periods. I don't actually know if there's a lot of research done on that, but it would be very fascinating to look at that. But just how our bodies tend toward synchronicity and tend and follow a cyclical cycle, and how beautiful that is, whether it's through seasons or years, and with our bodies through this way that we ebb and flow with our hormones. And perhaps like I know that I'm choosing to lean into it as like a blessing rather than like, oh, my period's back. Like what an inconvenience. Just it's a blessing. It's a sign of my health. It's a sign of my hormones bathing my bones in strength. And I can during various points of my monthly cycle, I will be really utilizing that estrogen to build bone strength. And it's a sign of my fertility and vitality. And and fertility is an amazing thing, right? In a woman, like it's the gift of life and the gift that we have to grow life. What for me, what is more magnificent than that? I've had the immense honor and sacred privilege of growing that 3 times. And if it happens a fourth time, I embrace it. I feel like I am leaning into doing all the things to prepare my body and be healthy and vibrant, and open womb, open heart, open mind, open spirit for that, if God grants that. And so today it's about cycles, and it's about, yeah, one day bleeding into the next, literally, because it's 3:54 this morning, and telling the story and coming on and of the raw, real, and vulnerable and what's happening now.